नाजरीन नादाब अजमत टाइम्स उर्दू न्यूज चैनल में आप तमाम का खैर मकदम। नाजरीन, ऑस्ट्रेलियन पादरी डेविड कोल्ड जिंदगी के 35 साल चर्च में अपनी खिदमत अंजाम देने के बाद इस्लाम कबूल कर लिया। पादरी के तौर पर कोल्ड डेविड ऑस्ट्रेलिया के मसीही बिरादरी में इज्जत हासिल कर चुके हैं। ये वीडियो बहुत ज्यादा वायरल हो रही है, आप स्क्रीन पर देखिए। उन्होंने 45 साल चर्च में खिदमत की है। मसीही नौजवान उनसे बहुत ज्यादा मोहब्बत और इज्जत करते हैं। खबर सुनते ही बहुत सारे लोगों ने उनकी हिमायत की और जानना चाहते हैं कि ये उन्होंने सफर कैसे तय किया। मगर दूसरी तरफ कुछ लोग बहुत फिक्रमंद भी हैं। डेविड इस्लाम कबूल कर लेने से क्रिश्चियन कम्युनिटी पर बहुत बड़ा असर पड़ा है। डेविड को इस्लाम कबूल कर लेने के बाद बहुत से पैगाम मिल रहे हैं। कोल्ड डेविड ने इस्लाम कबूल करने के बाद उन्होंने खुद अपना नाम अब्दुल रहमान रख लिया। आइए उन्हीं की ज़बानी
सुनिए। To support my sister. Perth's on the other side of the country, 5-hour flight away. And when I went there, I booked a hotel, and I noticed when I booked it that it was, only 150 yards from the Perth main Masjid, which was actually built at the turn of the 19th and 20th century. I think substantially by Afghan immigrants who were brought over in the days before rail to bring camels, because they were like they were the equivalent of trains of their day. And while there were earlier masjids set up in Western Australia and in other places, this one was a substantial one built. Anyway, I was staying very close to it, and every day I walked around it, past it, and I felt this call to go and visit it. But I was nervous, as an Orthodox priest. And nonetheless, I chose to go in. And I went and sat in this lovely courtyard garden, nobody around, and just sat and thought, about this as a house of God. I subsequently, on another visit, sitting there, met the Imam, and he gave me a Quran. And now it's true, for years I've had a Quran on my bookshelf. Barely touched it. But this time I went back to my hotel and, I prostrated and asked God, show me the absolute truth. Show me whether Islam is true or false, whether Christianity is right or wrong, whether Orthodox Christianity is right or wrong. And I prayed for some time on my knees, prostrate. Orthodox Christians actually prostrate in a way very similar to Islamic sujood, especially in penitential seasons. Anyway, I was used to prostration. I prostrated and prayed. And then I sat up and I read Quran, and I realized, intuitively, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, that this was the actual word of God that I had not paid heed to, not paid respect to. And I read it with completely different eyes. And I just knew, I instantly knew that this was the absolute truth and that I could no longer ignore it. So I went and talked further with the Imam and stood, probably awkwardly, and through Maghrib prayers at the back of the masjid. And then I had to fly back to Tasmania, and I flew back and reflected. And I could not continue on as before. So I prayed and I read Quran, and, the only way I could go back to what I was, serving as a priest in the way that I was to say that what I had felt and known and understood was a lie, and I could not do it. Was I unhappy being a priest? No. Was I, I was a priest that wasn't paid to be a priest. I worked full time because my parish was so small, that I'm a hospital social worker, working with many Muslim colleagues, as it turns out. and that his final message was the message that all of us, all Christians, everyone needs to heed, that I needed to pray as Jesus prayed, to pray as the prophets that were honoured, were prayed. And, I've been at peace with this decision.